Hello, I'm Bret and you're watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. Our guests today are Dr. Dietrich Seidel and his wife Elisabeth. The Seidels are instructors of graduate-level courses and seminars on marriage and family enrichment. Elisabeth is a native of France, and Dr. Seidel is a native of Austria. He is also an adjunct professor of theology at the Unification Theological Seminary in upstate New York. He holds a PhD in theology from the University of Toronto with a focus on marriage and family research. Dietrich and Elisabeth have been married for 30 years, and they've raised 2 grown children. Dr. and Mrs. Seidel, welcome to The Defining Moment. It's really a pleasure to welcome you here to our studio today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bret.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Our topic today is the secrets of a successful marriage. And I'd like to begin by asking you both to briefly share a defining moment from your own lives which influenced you in becoming who you are today. Dr. Seidel, can we start with you?
Yes. If I think back to my childhood, I was about 10 years of age, and I was raised by my mother and my stepfather, and they had their share of arguments. And usually it was behind closed doors, but as a child you hear everything coming through. And I remember one evening when there was a more heated argument, it just came to me. I said, this should not happen in my marriage. I really want to respect my wife. I want to find the right way of communicating, and something can be done about this, because looking back, many of these arguments were about very silly things, and it was really more a power struggle rather than a serious argument. So that's, in a sense, a defining moment that my life was always oriented towards building a more harmonious marriage.
Yeah, okay, very clear. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Elisabeth, you also would like to share a defining moment?
Yes. Actually, the most important time in my life was also a very tragic time. But somehow I lost my life and I got it back.
Yeah, tell us what happened.
So I was crossing a busy street in New York, and a car hit my back and I fell.
Wow.
I saw the 4 wheels passing over me, and at that time I surprised myself. I said, God, I gave my life for you. And somehow I stayed there on the floor, and one man came to me and said he called an ambulance, and he said, I saw Jesus there and he saved your life. So this time of recovery was so special for me, because I felt I survived and life was so precious, and I felt how important it is to love people and to be alive, to love God, to have a good family, and really take your life, with a different view, a different aspect. So that was really a very special time also, where I felt God's love.
Wow, amazing that you survived that.
Yes, I did.
Amazing
Yes.
experience. Thank you for sharing that. I know that you both have a wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and experience to draw from in speaking on the secrets of a successful marriage. And I understand that the first secret you want to share with our audience has to do with creating a vision statement as husband and wife. Can you please share with us what's involved in creating a vision statement?
Yeah, vision statement means that you have a roadmap for your marriage. You define a goal, where you want to go, and you don't do this as a husband or wife, but you do it together. And the way we recommend it to the people we talk to is that we first ask the husband and the wife personally to write down a few points how they want their marriage to be. So they make a list of maybe 4 or 5 points. We want to have a harmonious relationship. We want to learn to negotiate differences in a civilized manner, and also to write down kind of short sentences, and in the present, like it's already happening. We are having a fulfilling marriage, even if it's further down the road, but we speak about the present
in the present
vision.
tense.
In the present tense, yeah. So that's kind of a first step, and the point is, once you have your personal lists of points, what you want to accomplish in your marriage, then you exchange those lists. And you see, my partner wants this, I want this. There's some overlap, but there's some different points here. So how shall we accommodate those? Then we decide on the priorities. What do we all both agree is the most important one, and what is number 2, and so on. And some we may throw out. So we come up with maybe 4 or 5 points again, and we agree on them. And that's our common marriage vision statement.
Okay. Now, is that stated in a single statement?
No, these are usually points. Right?
Okay,
1, 2, 3, 4. And then the point is then to be reminded of this vision statement on a daily basis. So how to do that? You post this vision statement on the refrigerator door.
Wow, public place.
So every time you have a little snack, you read what your vision is, where you want to go with your marriage. Vision goes together with a foundation. The marriage has to have a certain strong foundation, something to stand on. And I would say the foundation for marriage are your values, is your relationship with God, is your spirituality, your commitment, your sense of commitment. So that foundation is kind of the prerequisite to allow that vision to take shape and form. And then in the interaction of the two, what happens is you have the power to actually make changes in your life. And that's what we're looking for, because obviously vision means I'm not there yet, so I have to change. I have to work on my personality and my willingness to cooperate more with my spouse and to come closer to each other. And so in that sense, the result of vision and foundation would be a change to the better, right? Moving on, a growth experience.
A growth experience.
That's what
over
we need.
time.
Yeah, right.
Okay, very clear. Elizabeth, would you like to add something to that?
Yes, I guess, as you said, the foundation is very important, like start our day with a prayer. And sometimes we happen to pray over the phone if we are not together.
If you're too busy.
And I feel this kind of internal foundation give us a protection and make a new beginning for our life. So all the invisible things are important. Also to keep a good atmosphere in the home, to have a home clean, to create good environment. I think this is all the foundation for a happy marriage. And then we can work out the skills, the external stuff. But to have, keep your religions, go to Sunday service, give your tithing. All these things is invisible, but it's so important to give the protection for your marriage.
Okay, so for you, obviously, spirituality is an important part.
Absolutely, yes.
Of a successful
Absolutely,
marriage.
Yes.
To include God.
Absolutely,
Not
yes.
as a concept, but as a living presence.
That's right.
In your marriage. Okay, thank you. Everyone who's married or who has been married understands the importance and challenges in developing good communication skills in marriage. What is the secret to effective communication between husband and wife?
I would say the first secret in communication is to realize that whatever needs and desires I have, my partner has a parallel list of needs and desires, and so I'm somewhat ready to attune myself to that and to take that into account, that I'm not just shooting for my self-gratification or do what I want to do, but always including the partner, have that disposition. And then the communication skill, many times we as couples, we communicate on a rather superficial level. We exchange information or cliches, how are you doing, good morning, and it is okay. I mean, we need that too to lighten up. But then the real communication starts once we communicate our feelings. And that is a skill. We need to learn to unveil, to reveal our feelings, to have self-disclosure on our mind, right? How can I communicate to my partner who I really am, and what's going on in my heart? And then the next step would be that I communicate my needs. So it's not just the feelings, but also we have needs. And of course, the major need a human being has is to love and to be loved. But that doesn't come easy either, right? So we have to really work on that. But we need to acknowledge each other's needs. And so real good communication comes about if we, as a couple, move towards those two aspects of communicating feelings and our needs. And then the small talk, so to speak, which rounds out our daily conversation, is well received and has its place, right? So that's okay. But the problem in our time is, especially for the husbands, we have a hard time to communicate feelings. We think this is kind of a feminine thing, and so husbands, they kind of swallow and let things happen in their hearts without sharing enough.
Yes.
And maybe the wives are on the other side of the spectrum. They speak too much about their feelings, and the husbands don't know what to do with that. So then we have this imbalance many times in terms of harmonious communication.
Well, there's this whole dynamic, as expressed in the book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? How men have a certain certain character traits and personality characteristics, and often women, it's 180 degrees opposite.
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
So what are some of the ways in which, there's a whole range of feelings that we can express as a human being, as a husband or wife. Tell us about the different kinds of feelings that need to be expressed. For example, if a person experiences some anger from their past, how do they deal with that effectively in a marriage? How the different range of emotions and feelings that there are to express? What's the effective way to deal with that?
Anger management is one of the major topics in marriage research. And the question is, why in the first place do we feel angry at all? What is that human emotion of anger? And after some reflection, you may come to the conclusion that anger is an expression of wanting fulfillment, wanting love, but it is not there yet. It is misdirected, or I'm not on the right road, or I realize something went wrong, and I'm missing something, and I'm angry about it, or some change needs to be done. So there's a certain impatience for reaching a desired goal. That's part of this angry feeling. So the point is, in terms of dealing with anger, is to just lay down certain rules for yourself. Of course, first to say, okay, I want to learn to make some emotional distance, give each other emotional space, so we are not caught up in this angry emotion and paralyzed, but we allow each other to take time out, to cool down, right? Which of course goes into conflict resolution.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that.
We speak about this later.
Yes.
But the whole phenomenon of anger is something we should really pay attention to, and there, of course, there's a lot of research done on that.
And what about grief and sadness?
Grief and sadness, it needs friendship, right? We need to see our spouse as our best friend. We can share whatever feeling is there, and then we need, of course, comfort.
To come back with the foundation, I was talking before, I guess each one of us come with some merit from our ancestors and also some heavy stuff. My grandmother was an orphan, so myself, I feel I have a lot of needs, which sometimes is not easy for you, Dietrich, to comfort me or to
fulfill those
needs.
So even those from your grandmother, that feeling of abandonment,
exactly,
even has come down to you. Absolutely. 2 generations later.
Absolutely. So for me, it's a drama. If Dietrich has to go away for a longer period of time, I feel so insecure. I feel terrible.
She doesn't want to be alone.
I can't take it. So he knows my need, and we try to work this out. Means sometimes I say, Dietrich, I really need to talk. Today I really need to talk. I feel so sad. I feel so abandoned. I feel whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that he takes the time as much as he can, that we can share, we can talk, and this fulfill my need.
Yeah, I think this is one of the hardest things for men to comprehend.
Yes.
Is the absolute need for women
Absolutely.
to be heard by their
Yes,
husband.
that's
It's really the
right.
hardest thing for us
It is,
to
yes.
understand.
It is. It
To,
is.
to make that easier, my wife has a good method to do that.
Tell us about that.
She would just say, let's go for a walk.
Okay.
And so we get the exercise and the
And
intimate
then
exchange.
she knows she'll have that chance.
Yeah, right. And then I'm not distracted by phone calls or except the cell phones, of course. We can turn it off, no problem. And so there are always ways.
So that's a
to,
good tip then, to kind of, in a sense, make an excuse to have an opportunity to spend some time together and talk.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So and there's a lot of a wealth of knowledge there in terms of what type of personality we are. Everybody has his own unique personality. And we have our hang-ups and our good points, our weak points. So to know more in more depth, who is my partner? What kind of personality? It helps, especially in crucial moments, if my wife would act exactly how her personality is. I know it ahead of time already. I'm prepared. I can take it. I'm not falling in the trap
Can
of
you give us an example
opposing.
of the
No,
personality
for example,
types?
I would say my wife has more. I'm using a typology which was developed by Gary Smalley, John
Okay.
Trent, which is
right.
one of the marriage counselors. And some people are lion personalities. The lions are the leaders, they take initiative, they're spontaneous and out in the front line. And it can be hard to live with a lion all the time, right?
That's me.
So then the other personality would be a beaver personality, for example. These are the ones who write manuals for gadgets, right? Who are precise. The engineers are beavers, right? So builders. They need to be very precise. Others are the golden retrievers, for example. There's the emotional, the ones who patiently listen and don't want conflict at any price. The retrievers, right? So. And then we have the otter personality, which is being always vivacious and more social and bragging and
extroverted.
Anyway, so that there are these different temperaments. So, for example, if my wife would say, "We have to do it now," the lion personalities, it has to happen now. There is no waiting, right? Then say, I have to take a deep breath. Okay, there's really no reason to do it now. We have still 5 or 10 minutes. But anyway, I understand you want to have it done now, so I adjust to that. I don't make an argument out of it, right? So therefore, it's good to know about the personality of the partner.
And I guess I have to learn that he needs to plan. If we decide to go to the restaurant, he likes to know it 1 week in advance.
I see.
I feel at 5 o'clock I need to go to a restaurant some days. So that's, anyway, we try to work it around it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's more the spontaneous, instantaneous desire comes out more.
I understand.
And I didn't budget that, or I didn't really think about that, right? So it takes me a while to rise to the occasion, right? So.
Okay, good. So these are all the dynamics, and
Yes.
examples of dynamics involved
Right.
in making a relationship work as husband and wife.
Right. So the other area of communication is to be aware of the masculine and feminine response. That means we as men act in a certain way and respond to a certain situation as men, and women do as in a female way. And just to give one example, men want to be trusted and women want to be cared for. Now you may think, so what's the big deal about that? But in daily life, what that means is man, if he gets a job, men want to work on their own and want to receive the trust that he can actually fulfill that job. So, for example, repairing the kitchen sink or something, right? So for the woman, what's important is to be cared for. That someone would ask how she feels and how she's doing, and she likes more doing things together. So if a woman would repair the kitchen sink, she would invite her husband and ask his advice, or let's do it together, and then feeling the care and love from this common activity. For the man, he wants to be left alone. He wants to be trusted. He does this job, and then he comes and says, okay, it's done, and then he wants to receive praise and acknowledgement.
Yes.
That's more the male response,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Very clear.
So just being aware of these differences helps, because you, ahead of time, you know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And most conflicts come from the wrong expectations. That we have expectations which are not realistic, or which go beyond, let's see, the the distinction between masculine and feminine response. We are ignorant of that, and so then we easily fall into the trap to argue about silly points. No?
Yeah. And so many arguments really are based on, just as you say, very silly,
Yes.
Yeah.
meaningless
True.
struggles.
I use the metaphor of two children playing in the sandbox and throwing sand at each other. Right?
Mhm.
So that's sometimes how
For no
marriage is.
particular reason.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, just
Well, that's really leading up to the next question I want to ask you. So, most marriages to some degree are strained by those misunderstandings and conflicts and fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that can result in a lot of emotional suffering
Yes.
for a husband and wife. What are some of the secrets to effectively resolving squabbles and conflicts in marriage?
Yeah, the first point on that is to agree to some ground rules. Right? See, we have to, even the best intentions, there will be arguments in every marriage, and also to see an argument not as something totally bad, but an argument means there are two positions on a certain issue, two opinions, and we need to reconcile. And there's a dynamic of negotiation there, and in the end, we have to take a win-win attitude in this whole situation. That once we work it through, then we both learn from it. We both can grow. So it's the growth experience in marriage is somewhat connected with negotiating our different positions and having arguments, but not to escalate the argument.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
What are some of the tips or guidance you can give to how to de-escalate
Yeah.
a fight or a conflict as it starts to escalate? What are some of the ways to take the heat out?
One is, for example, stay away from negative interpretation. So what that means again is you perceive your partner in a certain way, right? And you would say you're always like that. You're always late, and you're a slob or whatever. You come up with all kinds of judgments. Get rid of your frustration, and you verbalize your frustration. So to hold that back, say it doesn't contribute anything to solving the difference. So to stick to the facts.
To avoid insults.
Avoid insults, right? Watch your language, and also practice to give your partner the benefit of the doubt. That the partner acts sometimes maybe out of ignorance, hurtfully, but maybe didn't want to hurt. But don't interpret your partner that he intentionally wanted to hurt me. And then, of course, the anger is fueled and all the problems come up. Yes. So to give the benefit of the doubt, there was good intention, and then to have the strength and patience to speak things over. And one point is also the distinction between discussing an issue. Many marriages have issues like finances, sexuality, and whatever, some problems from our childhood. Something is there which is an issue which needs to be solved. And the issue is solved in the give and take in the marriage relationship. It's a healing process. And so we should put time aside as a couple to discuss those issues, and then, after we are clear about all our feelings, everything is on the table, and we know how the other person feels, then we can go to the solution. Then we have the discussion about the solution, what are strategies to improve the thing. But we should never mix the two. We should somewhat separate the two.
I see.
So that's an important insight from,
Very valuable.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Seidel. Elisabeth, what would you like to add to the
Yes.
art of conflict resolution?
Yes, I guess time is very healing. Let some time pass. Go for a walk, take a bath, do some breathing, watch a movie, do some sewing. Just put your mind somewhere else. And then as time comes, you sleep over it. The next day doesn't look so bad anymore. So, and then learn how to forgive. And I know I have to make more effort now and to learn how to forgive. This is another whole new topic. It's very important for family, for couple, to learn how to do it. And there's a lot of things out there that teach you how to do it.
Yes.
How to get rid of resentment, and it's a learning experience.
So to not
This
be
is cool.
afraid to look for some books.
Yes,
or
absolutely.
some guidance from others, people who are successful.
Yes, some friend in faith, some counselors, some.
But it's also important to choose those wisely, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Make sure
yes.
they're really on the side of the marriage as opposed
Absolutely.
to on the side of one spouse
Yes,
or the other.
absolutely.
Right?
Yes, yes.
Also, one important point is that when arguments happen, then many times it is a power struggle, right? One wants to show that his or her needs or feelings are more important than the one of the spouse, and the other spouse feels shortchanged and reacts to that, and so back and forth. So one way to go beyond this power struggle is to say it is not important that my individual wishes and desires are fulfilled, but that our relationship can be a fulfilling one. So the relationship goes beyond the individual needs of the partners. So to have that focus, that the common relationship in marriage, the loving relationship, that's really our goal. So there's one author, for example, one marriage therapist speaks about the power struggle can be overcome if I realize that if I insist on being right, I will get a booby prize. I should go for the gold. The gold is our harmonious relationship. That is the price.
Yes.
That is what
That's
we
the
want
real
to
prize.
That's the real prize. So to not to be worried about being right, that is really not the issue.
Yeah.
But how can we build and uplift our relationship into the direction of fulfillment, into the direction of accomplishing the vision statement? Why did we write it up in the first place, right? So there's the inspiration to see the relationship as more important than individual needs and desires and insisting it should happen now and all that. No?
Beautiful. Well, on that note, Dr. Seidel, Mrs. Seidel, I want to thank you so much for being our guest in the Defining Moment. It's really been a pleasure for me to have you here in our studio today. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's nice to be here, Bret.
Wonderful having you. You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thanks for watching and have a great day.